Hello and welcome to another episode of Great Britons. And I hope you're well, and I do hope you're going to enjoy today's content. Today we're going to be talking about a gentleman by the name of Percy Shaw, a name that may not be immediately familiar to you, but I'm sure you are familiar with his product. If you like today's content, please do click the like button. It makes a big difference to us here on the channel. It has a big impact upon the IT statistics that go around, and obviously helps us to grow the channel and to put out some more nice content for us all to enjoy. So sit back and enjoy, and we're going to dig into it now. So Percy Shaw, as the inventor of cat's eyes, that we are also familiar with on motorways and other major roads here in the UK and, of course, across the world. Percy was born and lived in and around the Halifax area, up north, as they say, and was a very, very interesting character. We're going back to the turn of the century, or what I should say is the turn of last century, so around about the year 1900. And Percy was part of a large family and left school at the ripe old age of 14 years old, which again, pretty normal really for those times. And it's fair to say, as a young adolescent, really didn't know what he wanted to do. He had a couple of different roles as an apprentice, which didn't quite work out for one reason and another. And he had lots of jobs as well, but he could turn his hand to most things. And I think even from an early age, it was very obvious that he got a real aptitude for engineering and, very, very quick to adapt to understanding the needs of engineering. In fact, one of his first jobs was repairing mangles. And I'm very aware there'll be a number of people watching today. They've got no idea what a mangle is. So let me explain. If, the lady of the house would do her weekly wash and have no method really of getting rid of the excess water. So the mangle comprised two large rollers placed fairly closely together. And the idea was that the wet washing that you'd push that up against the roller, and then the machine which held them had a very large handle on it, which the lady would sort of crank around, and that would force the clothing in between the rollers, which would squeeze the life out of them and expel the excess water. So it was fairly slow going and fairly hard work, but by and large, they did work. And no doubt from time to time, these things did need repairing. So that's what Percy did. When cars became more affordable and more popular, Percy also found he got an aptitude for repairing certain elements of the engine. And so he took to doing that, and he was very good at that as well. No doubt it was more lucrative than repairing mangles, but there you go. He was entrepreneurial by nature, and he could spot opportunities, and like I said, especially in the engineering area. So he could look at opportunities and make the most of them. Indeed, one of the things he got involved with was, a tarmacking business of all things. So I guess people that could afford it might want their front drive tarmacked, or there may be a private road that needed tarmacking or whatever, and he'd set up a business to do it. During the course of the time he was running the business, he found that using manual roller to walk up and down and press the tarmac into place was actually too much like hard work. So he actually developed the first kind of mini steamroller, I guess you'd call it. And he could just sort of jump on board and drive that thing up and down, and it would press the tarmac nice and flat. So, straight away he was into all that. Right, okay, we have an issue. How can we resolve it? And he would come up with a solution. So you could see he was a talented guy right at the outset. The actual story of the cat's eyes is open to interpretation. There are stories that he was driving along one night and saw a cat looking at him and thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have, something artificial built into the center or the side of the road so we could see. But, I'm not sure that story is actually true or not. It was kind of rumored at the time, but there seems to be a bit of, varying views as to how the idea came around. But in any event, Percy saw the opportunity and thought, right, okay, let's have a go at this. And he tested lots and lots of different ideas until he got it right. He also had quite a bit of competition as well, because I think other people, I don't know whether people had watched him, testing stuff out on roads or what, but he'd certainly got competition insofar as others thought about this and were trying to manufacture something similar. However, it has to be said that the one that Percy came up with was absolutely, by a long stretch, far, far superior. And certainly, a lot of transport people and local authorities had seen it and thought, wow, this really does what it says on the tin. So in 1934, Percy took out a number of patents to protect the product. And, when you think back, that was quite a shrewd move by the guy to actually do that. It would have involved a lot of work and a fair bit of cost as well, I would say. So, you're doing that against the background of having no orders. Obviously, you can't. If you're putting a patent in place, it's important to do that first before you start going around showing customers the product and start offering for sale. So he would have had all the expense of doing the intellectual property first. In 1935, he actually began manufacture. And what I find kind of interesting about this is that all the kind of Ministry of Transport people and local authorities, they all said, wow, great product, that's what it says on the tin, beautiful product, when it's in situ, it makes drivers safe, etc., etc. And yet, despite all that, the orders trickled in. Literally, there was orders for 50 or 60 here and 100 there, but when you consider even back in those days how many miles of road there were, the numbers coming in were, very, very disappointing, to say the least. And that kind of dragged on for about 4 years, where Percy couldn't quite understand, the relative lack of interest in placing more orders. So we now move on to 1939, and really everything changed for Percy Shaw when he received communication from Whitehall inviting him down to have a chat with the Ministry of Transport. The environment had totally changed because with the announcement of war, obviously new laws were rushed through Parliament. One of them, of course, was to do with the blackout rules. So that meant that in the evenings and overnight, no street lighting, no lighting to be shown at all at windows, curtains closed, all the rest of it. So it made towns and cities very dark indeed at night, especially in wintertime. And obviously driving around was very difficult, to say the least. So the government were aware that they needed to do something to make the roads a little bit safer. It came a bit of a shock to Percy when the Ministry of Transport says, okay, we now need you to manufacture 20,000 units a week. Now, he'd only been used to making like 50s and 100s and whatever. So this sudden request to manufacture 20,000 a week was an absolute shock. A lot would need to change, obviously, more machinery, more kits, more raw materials, more space, extra staff, people have got to be trained, you name it. All these things have got to be done. The government did help in terms of financial support, so that was a good thing. And so Percy set to work, went back and, sort of made all these things happen. But you can just imagine the change from making 50s and 100s to 20,000 a week was absolutely massive. But it set the company off on a road to success where they never looked back. So much so that they're still successful today, shipping the stuff all over the world. So yeah, it really is really is quite something. And as I said, that continued for many years, and indeed in 1965. Percy was invited to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen, where he was given the OBE, the Order of the British Empire, a medal for his services to exports. Such was the success of the cat's eyes in the UK that people from all around the world had started putting orders in. And this had had a tremendous effect on British export numbers. So Percy, quite rightly, was recognised for his part in that and was appropriately awarded the OBE in 1965. The company, is still very successful, and in fact has got a steady turnover of producing at least 1 million of these cat's eyes per annum. And as I said, they are shipped throughout the world. Sorry for darting around a bit on this one, but I really need to sort of take you back to 1934 when all this really happened. So this is 1 year before he set up the business to manufacture the product. And what he actually did, which I think was, he showed a lot of foresight on his part. He patented the product in the UK, in the USA as well, in Canada and many parts of Europe. That would have taken quite some doing. There would have been a lot of work involved in that, and a fair old amount of cost, I would guess. You're talking about, maybe talking to specialist intellectual property consultants and various other specialists, on the legal side of things. So, and a lot would have needed doing. And like I said, at the time, he'd got no orders. So the issue you have is it's all money sort of flowing out of the business and none flowing back in yet. So yeah, that would have taken some some considerable thought in terms of how you finance it. When I was researching this, the thing that I couldn't really get my head around, and despite kind of digging around to find some information, I couldn't find the information I was looking for. And that is, here we have a guy who is enormously successful by any stretch. He's manufacturing 1 million units a year, shipping all over the world. Like I said, very successful. He lived quite a modest life, been in the same house nearly all his life, didn't spend excessively. He loved his Rolls Royce. He loved nothing more than the chauffeur taking him down to the market and buying a piece of fish or some sandwiches and eating them in the back of the Rolls. So that was his one little indulgence. But I mean, apart from that, he lived very modestly. Um, but when he passed away, I'm not suggesting he was poor for a moment, because he wasn't, but he certainly wasn't rich either. And I kind of wondered what had happened to all the cash, because you would have expected someone that's shipping 1 million units a year to be incredibly wealthy, and he just wasn't. I'm not sure if he, gave a lot away to charities or did whatever. But like I said, apart from his one little indulgence of being able to collect his sandwiches in the Rolls Royce, he didn't really spend much, Uh, very strange. If you've got any more information on that, by the way, I really would appreciate it, because I just find it so strange. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we should all be in pursuit of wealth for its own sake. And some people, might think, well, good on the bloke, if he, if he lived modestly and died in the same way, then good on him. But I'll just find it interesting, that's all. Because like I said, the company was just so successful. The only thought that did occur to me was that there's a sort of a misconception with intellectual property, in particular patents and all the rest of it. And people think that the patent is all powerful and protects you from being copied and everything else. And I have to tell you, in my experience, that is not the case. The patent is a wonderful way of announcing to the world, hang on a minute, I've put a lot of work into this, I've invented it, and I'm about to protect it. So don't you dare try and copy me. But it just is, it's a little bit of bravado in a way. It's a statement that says, do not copy. But when people do copy, you are judged, if you like, on your ability to throw money at the problem. We're talking about civil court cases now in the UK and all around the world if people sort of copied you in America or wherever. So you're judged by your ability to chuck some money at this problem, hire a team of lawyers, and take those who infringe to court and sue them. And that costs time and it costs money. So I don't know whether that could be a reason for, like I said, maybe the guy wasn't as well off as one would expect it. But certainly the patents themselves do not protect you. It's the it's how determined you are to stand up for your rights and to pay for those rights to be protected. So there we go. A very, very interesting guy, and well worthy of inclusion in our series on Great Britons. He's done a lot for the country and very deserving of his OBE. So that's it for today. I do hope you've enjoyed the content. Please do remember to click the like button if you have. Have a good day. I'll catch up with you very soon. And from me, it's bye for now. Bye.